I'm going to show you 4 elite hip mobility exercises that you should be doing. I wasted months of my clients' time by doing what every other therapist was doing. It wasn't until I learned what I'm going to share with you that everything changed. I want to save you months, if not years, of doing this wrong thing and thinking that stretching alone will fix your injuries, because it won't. But here's what you can do instead. I call this the strength and length model. I'm always thinking of new ways to make exercising more efficient, more enjoyable, and more importantly, creating a system to get clients results as fast as possible. So let's look at the commonly tight muscles we see most people suffer with. Most of us sit a lot, 5 to 8 hours a day, 5 to 6 days a week. It is no wonder that these common structures are chronically tight. Our hamstrings, adductors, so our groin muscles, and hip flexors. So what can we do with this information? Let's apply something I call the strength and length model to these exact 3 structures. So let's start with the hip flexors using something like a Bulgarian split squat. If we control the pelvis effectively, we can not only promote single leg dynamic balance and glute development, but we are also loading the hip flexor with weight that we can progressively overload. We can even complete pause reps or even at the bottom hold the isometric position to really emphasize hip flexor length. Direct hip flexor training. Muscles can also be tight as a result of being weak. When you sit around all day, it is unlikely you have strong hip flexor muscles, and as a result, their resting position will shorten. Here is a great way to directly hit the hip flexors. Using a cable machine and 2 ankle straps, what you can do is lay on your back and bring your knees up towards your chest. This is a great way that we can use an entire stack to really develop hip flexor strength. The adductors, the groin muscles. The groin is rarely ever trained in the gym. And if it is, it's only ever using the adductor machine, which is better than nothing, but far from elite. Here is a great way to build through the full length of our groin. This is a kettlebell Cossack squat. What we are going to do is come down and then see how we raise one of our heels up off the floor. If that's too hard, alternatively, we can come down and keep our foot completely flat to the floor. We're working strength and length at the same time, and we can overload this with a heavier and heavier kettlebell each and every time that we complete the exercise. And finally, a tremendous way to stretch the hamstrings whilst being able to load this up beyond double our body weight. As we lower down, you can see that I'm standing on a plate, so we get even more length through the hamstrings than we typically would. As you can see through the descent, we're keeping our knees relatively straight the whole time. So 10-15 degrees of knee flexion, but as we hit the bottom of the repetition, as we go through range here, you'll notice that I bend the knees further to complete more of a conventional deadlifting position. That way we are getting maximal lengthening of the hamstrings on the way down, but we can also move more weight because it's easier to lower the weight down than it is to lift back up in that straight leg position. So we're really emphasizing getting an amazing stretch through the hamstrings. So in summary, you should always find and select exercises that allow you to, number 1, progressively overload, so add more weight over time. Number 2, lengthen the muscle across its entire range of motion, preferably under load. And number 3, give you enough of a challenge and stimulus to actually stress the system. If it doesn't, you won't adapt. So now you have 4 of the most important biomechanical principles. You can now use these principles and compare that to your current plan. One injury does not need to plague you for the rest of your life, but you do need to have a framework that is setting you up for success. If you want to learn more about injury rehab and elite performance, then subscribe to this channel.